Step into the sin bin. This is Penalty Box Radio.
4-time Best Sports Blog winner.
With Justin Bradford.
3-time winner for Best Sports Reporter and Commissioner of the SECHC.
And Glynne Blackwell. It's time to talk all things hockey in the Music City. Penalty Box Radio is on Smashville's Best Sports Talk.
ESPN
102.5 The Game.
Hello and welcome to Penalty Box Radio. It's the season finale episode. Justin Bradford, Glynne Blackwell, producer Max behind the glass taking care of us. And what a day it has been with the NHL Draft. Oh my God.
Oh my.
It was still going on as I was driving to the studio, Glynne.
Yeah, same with me.
Started at 10:30.
And how do you even keep up?
I'm used to the draft ending around 1:30 or 2, taking my time at the arena, wherever it's being hosted,
Doing
and
your thing.
Getting kicked out by NHL PR. Like, we're turning off the Wi-Fi and the power. You guys got to go. But not this long. It's what
now
a
you're driving
weird
down the
year.
road trying to audio text things and
doing
tweet.
Zoom interviews while driving and using the phone in the holster and just pressing a little quick button on the screen when I need to. But that's the age we live in, and we're having our season finale on a day when we typically be having our season premiere.
Yeah, Facebook reminded me today that this was the premiere like 5 years ago today.
Oh, man.
And now we're wrapping it up.
It's been
What a time to be alive.
It's been a year.
It has.
We still have another quarter
This last
to go.
day has been a year, too. Hasn't it?
These last few months have been a year. Oh, my
have.
goodness. But it has been a news-breaking day. I was with Chase McCabe for Draft Night in Smashville last night, and we were talking about what could happen during the draft. Any trades going to happen? What's going to be the movement? And nothing much really happened the first night, and we were discussing that, there's probably going to be a lot of general managers talking. We know David Poile's phones are ringing off the hook, I'm sure, and that it would come into today, and things would probably hit. And we'd probably have a few moves. Well, they did.
A little bit.
So as soon as the trade breaks, so Nick Bonino and 2 picks going to the Minnesota Wild for a pick in return and Luke Kunin, that breaks and is the first Luke to be acquired from the Nashville Predators today. The first of 4 Lukes.
Yeah,
to be
first
acquired
of many.
by Nashville Predators.
I mean, if we would have known that, we wouldn't even had to watch. We're just like, we know who they're going to pick.
That's a Luke.
Look at all the prospects and pick out all the Lukes.
Luke.
Exactly. And there's your Preds team.
That happens, and then it breaks that Kyle Turris is getting bought out, which we figured may happen, which just shows that David Poile wasn't even able to get a conditional or a 7th or, whatever could happen after that, future considerations. And then the draft continued on, and then there were trades within the draft the Predators did to basically take Philadelphia's offer and to get 2 picks in the 7th, which they didn't have, to get rid of their 5th. And I had to shower in between picks because I didn't expect it to go. So I woke up and went right down to draft mode in the basement with my computer and TV and everything to prepare. And I'm going, when am I going to eat? Because it's like you don't know how quickly it's going to roll, because sometimes it's boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
Sometimes it'll be, we'll take a timeout. We're going to take the full 3 minutes. Didn't know, so I quickly had my computer sitting on the bathroom floor listening to make sure, like, okay, they have how many picks to go before the press? Scrub.
Let me see how quick I can get through. Also, thank you, too, since we're shut up in a studio together. I'm so glad you prioritized and made time to shower.
Well, I had to do that. So it's been an interesting day, just full of just interviews via Zoom with Luke Kunin, who's coming over from the Minnesota Wild, who's a young player. He's an RFA, so I'm sure that contract work is going to get going right now on that. And Nick Bonino, we've been discussing for how many weeks that he is probably one of the most tradable assets the Predators had in terms of that he could actually get a return on what you think would be fairly even. Now there's been lots of talk of, 2 picks and Bonino going, but, to take some of that cap away, you have to give up something. That's basically what they did. They cleared some cap space. They also get a lot younger and a fairly comparable player who still has plenty of potential to grow in Luke Kunin. And I just like his pedigree in terms of playing with the NTDP. Played at Wisconsin. He was a captain there. He was an underager going to Wisconsin, so he's playing college hockey at 17, which is pretty cool to see. But I'm going to cue up Max here because I know he's multitasking. We're going to look a clip from the Luke Kunin on the NTDP and the University of Wisconsin and how that just helped prepare him for his pro career.
think it was huge. Obviously, at the national team, you're playing with and against the best players. At that age group, being on a team with guys like Kachuk, Matthews. The list goes on and on. These guys that you're going against, being around every day, it just makes you get better and better. And we had a lot of success there and some great times. And then going to Wisconsin a year early and really pushing myself to play against older guys. Being a 17, 18-year-old, I really wanted to take on that challenge, and I think it helped me grow into my game and mature quicker. And I think all those steps that that I took really helped with my development, on that path to where I want to be.
So he's entering his fourth year as a pro, fourth full season as a professional. He played with the Iowa Wild, obviously, before getting into the Minnesota Wild, and he had a pretty good quote-unquote playoffs is what we can call it. But he produced a little bit in terms of what you would expect in terms of how he's continuing to grow and mature. And so if he's that solid middle six guy, David Poile mentioned in his availability that it happened so close to our show starting that we don't even have the media available for it yet. I know that's what Max is multitasking on, is trying to get some of that clipped so we can utilize it because it's been such a long day. But even said that maybe he could be the center on the third line. So there's lots of potential for the youth movement here, and being 22 years old. He's into his fourth pro year at 22. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It plays into what David Poile has said their focus is that youth movement. And so it just further contributes that. I know Michael Russo, who's the writer for The Wild for The Athletic, said, he might be a third-line guy in his opinion, but he goes out there and he works his butt off. He might not be a crazy goal scorer, but he's out there working hard. And if you've got somebody that's contributing in that fashion, not every single person has to be a dynamite goal scorer. They just have to go out there. They have to do the job that they're supposed to do. They're supposed to play the game the way the Predators want them to play the game and get it done. So, I think you're, like you said, very comparable, even when you look at points. Compared to Bonino, maybe just a few less than he had last season, but you're getting the youth. And you're getting the years ahead that Bonino might not have. So
getting the youth and getting a little bit more wiggle room in cap space, because obviously he's probably going to do a raise from what he was making, unless they just qualify him and accepts the qualification. And we'll get into contract talk later, I'm sure. Yeah, but it's going to be interesting there too. So more on Kunin too. I asked him what the type of player he wants to be, because obviously he is still progressing and he's still very, very young and can continue to grow and mature. So here's what the type of player he wants to be for the Predators.
Yeah, I think a big thing for me is getting quicker this summer. I feel like I have a lot of good strength, but to be able to move quicker on the ice, use my speed more to my advantage, and more production offensively for sure, and just continue to become. And it's been a good training program for me so far, and I just want to keep doing that so I can come in to camp, and whenever we start playing, ready to go and ready to do what I know I can do.
Went a little old school there with the Zoom glitch.
Sounded like he was on the turntables.
Yeah,
started to have a rhythm to it. I started moving.
So speed is obviously big. Being young, the Predators wanting to get faster, as we want to see every team wants to do that.
Yeah.
But wanting to get faster, and that'll obviously progress very well. And just kind of rushing right along through because there's so much to cover. But a really great question. Robbie Stanley, host of Robbie and Rex Road. I have to get the name right because he's calling it Morning Drive.
Yeah.
So big congrats to them. But Robbie deals with type 1 diabetes, and so does Luke Kunin. So a very unique aspect there, too, in terms of, same with Max Domi, that they all battle, they have that challenge as well. So, and I just wanted to play this because it was a great question by Robbie Stanley, and how Luke Kunin did that, and how he's involved in the diabetes community, too. So here's a clip of Luke Kunin talking about type 1 diabetes and dealing with that.
Yeah, first of all, it's huge, very near and dear. Obviously, in my heart for me, obviously having it here in Minnesota. I was an ambassador for JDRF, and I think it's just huge to have the platform that I do playing in the NHL with type 1, just to be able to talk to kids or, parents, whatever it may be, just to let them know, you can still achieve the things you want to. And that's very passionate for me. I really want to keep doing that, whether, I continue to do it here, find places, obviously in Nashville now, to continue to do that, talk to kids, which I'm very much looking forward to continue to do. I think it's such a big thing, the platform that we have to be able to give back and talk these kids through the situations that I went through. those unknowns about, can you still do what you want to do? And so that's very big for me. And I think playing the NHL with type 1, I don't really see anything too different, obviously, me than anyone else. It's a part of you. It's something you got to do. The way I've always looked at it, it could be a lot worse. So, you take it, you run with it, you do what you got to do to, feel good, stay healthy, do all the right things for, your blood sugars and all that kind of stuff, and help you have the best chances for success on the ice. And that's kind of the way I've always looked at it.
So great part of the community coming in to join right there too, and a big representative of it. Yeah,
I'm really glad that Robbie asked that, because it shows that he uses his platform positively, and we get to see a little bit of what he wants to provide to the community outside of the game, which I think we can all appreciate. That's the Nashville way. And it also just shows his mindset. It's all about perspective. And so I think you can appreciate the on ice, all the numbers and the stats, but you can also appreciate what he's going to bring to Nashville outside of that.
Absolutely. So moving on from that, the other news of the day was Kyle Turris going on waivers for a buyout. Mm-hmm. Now, I had some questions come in, so I want to clarify this. So my apologies if you feel like I'm dumbing it down for you folks, but we have fans that are on every different level here of the Predators. They want to know what it means. So he still had time left on his contract. When you buy him out, you still have to pay him that contract. But the way it spreads out is that the Predators will owe Kyle Turris $2 million a year until 2028. That's a long time, right? Because he had 4 years left on the contract. So you split it up in terms of it was a $6 million contract. So it's $2 million every year for 8 years. However, that clears up $4 million in cap space as well. And so what David Poile was asked by Adam Vingan about that as well. And it is one of those things that it just wasn't working out here. And Poile made sure to comment on how Kyle's a good person. It just unfortunately that didn't fit. He's been good in the community. He does a lot of good work. It just didn't fit. And it hasn't. It hasn't fit at all since the first few months of the trade. And, he had Kevin Fiala, and they both lit it up pretty well the first few months after when he came to join the Predators in that November.
And with Craig Smith, it was just, they were on fire. But you also have to think about it from his perspective. He wants to go somewhere and succeed, and so maybe deep down, he was happy in Nashville. He was trying his best. It wasn't working, and you can only imagine that maybe going somewhere else and starting over fresh and getting a fresh start might realize that this was the best opportunity for him and the Predators.
Absolutely, because, well, one, he's going to be getting paid $2 million.
Exactly.
So he's set when it comes to that, and there's going to be a team out there that for less money will want to sign him. Yep. Like, he still has, obviously, plenty of NHL life left in him.
Yeah, it just didn't work
work at this, with that contract.
Yeah.
It just unfortunately didn't work. But and we go back to what has been said in the past is that when Turris signed that contract, there was a trade and sign. So he chose to want to stay in Nashville during that 3-team trade. So it was one of those things. He made the decision. He thought he could be successful here, and the Predators thought he could be successful here, and he chose Nashville. It was basically a free agent signing via trade. So that's what hurts to see that too, is that both sides wanted it, just didn't work out. So we'll see what that does. It clears up a lot of cap space. I know people have teased what does that make Taylor Hall? Something that the Predators are going to look at, because now they're going to have the cap space.
Very interesting.
Yeah, very interesting. And free agency starts in 2 days. So we go right from draft to free agency. But up next, we're going to discuss the draft, what happened in the first round, and every other round from then on with some clips from some of the draft picks from the Predators. And that's up next. Penalty Box Radio, ESPN 102.5 The Game. Welcome back to Penalty Box Radio, the season finale episode. Justin Bradford, Glynne Blackwell, producer Max. A perfect song, very fitting. Who can it be?
Oh, right.
At the draft?
I have the answer.
You
Luke.
do. Luke. It is definitely Luke.
Definitely Luke.
3 Lukes taking the draft and adding Luke Kunin. Super mega Luke is going to happen. Forces are going to combine. That's what
the Nashville Luke Predators.
Oh my gosh! So I wanted to get this take because producer Max from Pittsburgh, he's a Yinzer. Matt Murray. I mean, that was a big trade to break the day too, because Ottawa just big time picks in the draft and they go and get Matt Murray. What are your thoughts on that, Max?
I'm loud. Sorry. The inner Yinzer in me wants to scream, we should have kept Flower back in 2017. Shouldn't have let Flower go out there to Vegas and all that. But, that was what I actually thought in a normal voice at the time. But, yeah, they both kind of expired in their current roles at the same time, which is funny to see. how the Penguins move on from Murray for basically nothing, and Vegas is ready to actually put the sword in Fleury's back after they figuratively did it.
Oh my gosh! Wow.
I'm sure that Alan Walsh, is that his name, appreciates that. Wasn't he the agent that did that?
I support that tweet so much. Yeah. I support anything that makes hockey close to as fun as the NBA and the NFL.
More personality.
Please,
more personality. Just like I can't wait for Yegor Afanasyev to make the NHL because of his personality.
Oh yeah,
had a great chat with him last night, just in terms of everything going on. He's because if you've heard the rumors of the OHL, that they're discussing how they want to make it a no-contact league. And now I get the reason why. We're in a pandemic, right? They're even trying to do that in men's league or recreation league to say limit your contact. But it's hockey, and even in the women's game where there's no checking, there's still contact. It's a physical sport. That's just how it is. So I'm very curious on that. He was going, how do they expect us to do that?
Yeah, I'm like, okay, that's fine. Let's sit down and show me that game.
Yeah.
Show me what that game looks like, and then we'll talk.
Yeah, and it's so, especially with how competitive people get.
Yeah.
When you're in a league, you're playing for spots on an NHL team. You're being scouted all the time by your own team, and others are being scouted for the next upcoming draft.
Yeah.
Very interesting. But he did say to watch out for the Predators' first-round pick. Now, Twitter blew up last night because as things started progressing in the first round, people were saying, they're going to take Askarov. They're going to take Yaroslav Askarov. They're like, no, they're going to take like Jack Quinn or Seth Jarvis, or if other guys drop, maybe they'll take other ones. But as soon as Jack Quinn was taken by Buffalo at 8, I went, oh, here we go.
Yeah, the story changed big time.
Story changed very big because then things started falling into place that Askarov continued to drop. Now, Askarov is being related to guys like Carey Price, Martin Brodeur, Vladislav Tretiak. If those of you really want to go back,
and the rarity of having that top goaltender
in a first round like that.
In the first round, yeah.
Now, granted, early round goaltending picks have not worked out for the Preds in the past, but I think this might be a different story for this, and they're very excited for it. And I asked David Poile about this pick, and if it was the guy that they wanted the whole time, and about if he was excited for him to be there, if he was surprised for him to be here. So here's David Poile, who we just talked to, 20 minutes ago on the first pick of Yaroslav Askarov.
Well, that's the classic line, and we couldn't believe that he was still there. But yes, that's who we wanted in the draft. I mean, there was three guys that everybody really wanted at the top of the list. But after that, Askarov was our guy. I didn't know. I thought he could have gone anywhere from fourth or up to our pick, and there was some conversations, and I was getting all sorts of calls from people to move back in the draft, and it was all because they wanted to get the goalie on balance. So I think all the first 10 players that were taken in this draft were all really good. So I don't think we could have gone wrong. But having said that, we've now drafted our future goaltender someday. And again, if you followed and if you watched him play, or if you followed with some of the reports that have been on him that people in the know have said, I mean, this guy could be really, really special for his age. He is as good as it's come. I mean, he's as good as any goalie at his age. I don't want to say ever, but when they start mentioning guys like Carey Price and Vasily Vasilyev, who plays in Tampa Bay, I mean, that's pretty heady company for a young player. So again, it's when you see, if you've seen any of how he plays, his size, his agility, his flexibility, it's pretty impressive.
And what's impressive now is Askarov's already playing in the second best league in the world. He's playing in the KHL. So and when we say this between men and boys, he's playing against men because he's playing against guys that are way older than him, that have played in the NHL, that have been playing the men's game for years. And he's in that league right now in the KHL with SK St. Petersburg, which is also where Yakov Trenin is on loan to. And he has been doing, he's only played 3 games, but his goals against average is a .74 and a .974 save percentage with a shutout.
Yeah.
And he's 2-1. He's lost one of those games. Look at those numbers.
Yeah. It's wild. You kind of feel sorry for Toronto because they've been writing about him for weeks, and you're like, do you really think he's going to be lingering around at 15? But yeah, I mean, it's crazy to be able to read about players, right? And you can only get so much information from what scouts see, what people see in these prospects. But something about him in the way that people write about him, he sounds like he already oozes confidence at a very young age, saying that he wants to come in. He's confident in playing in North America. He's confident in his game, and he wants to be the best. And so at such a young age, he seems like he's got a lot of confidence under him. It's said that he tracks lateral passes well. He's got cat-like reflexes.
Ooh.
And I know. And at 6'3", you obviously want someone, a big body in the net. But at 6'3", they also say that he's not a 6'3" body flailing around. He's very under control. He's very methodic. He's very smooth in his moves, and he's also very vocal in the game. He makes himself known in the game, and he's not just waiting for pucks to come to him, so he includes himself in the game. So I'm excited. I'm super excited to see the potential. Why are you laughing?
Because it all sounds very Russian. That's why I'm laughing, because everything there sounds very Russian to me. And it's very curious because you have a segment of Preds fans that absolutely did not. They're like, we need a forward. Well, the goalie, look what he could do, potential for the future. And you have different segments of Preds fans. Mm-hmm. Here's the thing, and this is not a rant or anything. It's trying to talk people off the edge of the cliff. This team needed everything.
Yeah.
There wasn't one position that they really did need, because let's look at this, because yes, they took multiple defensemen in this draft. They need defensemen. Once you get past, say, an Alex Carrier and maybe a Fred Allard and a Jeremy Davies, you don't know if David Ference is going to make the NHL.
Yep. You
don't know about all these. They also bought out Steven Santini, who was part of that Subban trade, and that just didn't work out, and it was not going to work out. Mm-hmm. But they don't have much depth. They really don't at the blue line. They don't in terms of prospect depth. And you think in a few years, they're going to come up in contracts with Matthias Ekholm, who's going to be due a raise, no doubt. Mm-hmm. And then they got to figure out something to do with the blue line and the third pair. So that means you're going to lose a prospect from Milwaukee that's probably going to be coming up, like Alex Carrier or Jamie Davies later in the season, to play with the Predators. So you need to restock the cupboard in every single position. Askarov was available. There's the potential there with the age difference between Saros and Ingram and Askarov that it's going to be a few years. No matter what, it's going to be a few years for Askarov's playing in the NHL. It's not a situation where he's coming over right now and going to play, because he's playing under contract in the KHL. So he's going to continue to develop. You see what you have with Saros and with Ingram and with other goaltenders that are in your system as well. But if you have the opportunity to draft a franchise goaltender like this,
you
take
pass
it.
That up.
You take it, and that's the best available player. We're talking all the time about you take the best available player. At that point in the draft, according to most people's boards, given how many calls they're receiving on wanting to move up and the Preds to move down so they could get Askarov, he was the best available player. Would they have taken maybe somebody else that was a forward or a defenseman that was available? Might have.
Yeah.
But if Askarov was there, it sounds like that's who they wanted.
And where do you go wrong when you fill your cupboard with a solid potential backbone goaltender? You know, I mean, look how the Preds fan base has appreciated so much what they've seen in Pekka Rinne. Can you imagine if this continues and he's the new Pekka Rinne? As far as Pekka Rinne is retired, he's in the net, and you've got that solid presence that you want. You can't pass up a solid goaltender in the first. You can't do it.
Now, they did draft a forward in the second round, just to not to appease everybody, but just to ease the minds a little bit, and that was a Luke Evangelista, and he is currently playing with the London Knights, a storied organization. I've been to a few games there. Saw Max Domi play there when he was playing with the London Knights. He also represented Canada, so he's played for the national team as well. He played for the Oakville Rangers, where he played his AAA hockey, but he went from playing 27 games in 18-19 with only 2 points to 62 games last season and 61 points. Huge jump in the evolution there for his game. And so Luke Evangelista was a big name right there. But Matt Patton, who's a Predators amateur scout, was one of the guys that was very instrumental in scouting Evangelista there in London. So here's what Matt Patton, Predators amateur scout, had to say about Evangelista.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And that's what was really attractive about him is his potential and his upside. I think his upside is very high. Again, he played for a very good coach in London, and Dale Hunter. Not very many kids at 17 years old are hopping over the boards as a first PK unit guy. But I think he's got more offensive upside too, as well. But again, just very excited, and can't wait to have him join the organization.
So they get a forward. They also got other forwards later in the draft. They also got defensemen. We're going to talk more about that in the next few seconds because we have lots of questions that came in on Twitter. I think maybe because the season finale and then everything else that happened today, that we had a plethora of questions. So we're going to dedicate more to the draft, more to answering the questions you all submitted on Twitter. Up next, Penalty Box Radio, ESPN 102.5 The Game. Welcome back to Penalty Box Radio here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Justin Bradford, Glynne Blackwell, producer Max. Boy, remember when we could travel to New York?
I know. I remember.
Oh, I remember.
Long ago are the days.
What a season. What a year. What a year. So, continuing on with our draft talk here, it's a gimme question to ask prospects when they're drafted of who did you model your game after, who would you look up to, because they're young, they're at 17, 18, or in the Predators' case, and with overagers, 20, because they got 3 of those today, and who they model the game after, because it's always unique to hear from in their own words, because as we all know, players tend to be fairly humble or shy in the aspect of they're not used to talking about themselves as much. Some of them are very good at it. Not all of them are. But in terms of Luke Prokop, my goodness, that's one of those last names I'm going to mess up all the time. He was taken the 3rd round, 73rd overall. He's a defenseman. And so who did he model his game after? So here's Luke.
Growing up was a lot of Shea Weber. Kind of as I grew older, though, I started looking at guys who maybe aren't as noticeable. They kind of go under the radar with the extra kind of things they do. So guys kind of like Brandon Carlo in Boston, Justin Hall in Toronto, kind of those 2 players I modeled over the past 2 or 3 years now.
Huh, Shea Weber.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, sounds a little familiar there. Yeah, Shea Weber. But I like how he said ones that are a little underappreciated, under talked about as well. Meaning you can tell he looks at the game.
Exactly.
He's not just picking superstar players to take a superstar players.
Yeah, which you can appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And go
ahead. You go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, and with him, Elite Prospects had talked about how he's one of those players that is seen breaking up plays, joining the rush. Nothing really fancy, but effective. So.
And the next one, Adam Vilsby, and yes, there's a W there, but he's Swedish, and so there's Vilsby was the other defenseman he was taken after Prokop. He was 101 overall. This is the 4th round pick defenseman, and he is from Skellefteå. I'm trying to figure out I'm trying to say that correctly.
Sounds like you said it right.
I believe
as if I know
did,
the difference, but
because it looks like it should be Skellefteå, but it's Skellefteå.
But it's never what it seems.
It's never what it seems, especially Swedish, because it does have the little circle over the A. Remember with Pontus Åberg?
Yeah.
It is an O sound. Skellefteå.
Berg.
So I played in the Swedish Hockey League there, but he mentioned some really interesting names. One of them may be familiar about who this defenseman modeled his game after. So here's Adam Vilsby.
Yeah, I don't really have modelized my game after someone, but I've looked at other defensemen like Shea Theodore, Shane Gostisbehere, and also like Roman Josi of the Nashville Predators. Good skating defensemen, mobile defensemen. Those type of defensemen.
So Adam Vilsby, the 20-year-old, he's an overager. He's looked over before, but the Predators, they had some luck drafting a Swede that was an overager. That was Victor Arvidsson before, and that was in the 4th round when he was taken. And so Vilsby, he made sure during this call that he said that he's a strong skater. He's a mobile defenseman. Like that was, you could tell the talking points he was given when it's like, you're going to go on this call. You're going to say you're a strong skater,
very important.
You're a mobile defenseman, and make sure to throw a shout out to Roman Josi. But I do like how he threw out the Shane Gostisbehere and the Shea Theodore as well, because they're young players still. And so he's only a few years younger than them, being an overager at 20 years old already. He's only 5 years younger than Shea Theodore, who's 25. But to just say he's looking at those guys, because that's the evolution of the defenseman.
Yep.
And the National Hockey League.
Yeah.
Roman Josi, when asked about that after the Norris Trophy win, he was early on in that evolution, the puck-moving defensemen that are great at zone entries and can move the puck along, things like that. And now you see the Miro Heiskanens, you see the Cale Makars, or as Sam Fleming at Penalty Box Radio, Cale Makar says it. You're seeing this in the evolution, so I'm curious to see how these guys develop. But the Predators, they spread it out across everywhere in terms of where they were drafting, from Russia to Sweden to the OHL to college. A little bit of everything in this draft.
It is. And to go back to Vilsby, I mean, it's really, really hard to argue when you've got a mobile defenseman who is putting up offensive numbers in your system. I mean,
Right.
You're getting the best of both worlds right there. And like you said, I love that he made sure that it was very clear the type of game that he plays, because that is where the game is at, and that's where the game is headed, and that's where the Nashville Predators want their defensive game to be headed. So I'm excited. I think he's got a lot of potential.
They absolutely do. So now let's move on to some questions because we have that. And want to say, if you're listening, and because this is our season finale, I'm going to open the lines. Okay? So if you have an opinion on what's happened with the draft or on the Bonino trade or the Kyle Turris buyout, feel free to give us a call, 615-737-1025. That's 615-737-1025. Feel free to give us a call. Don't be too shy. We don't bite. It's season finale. We want to hear what you have to say. But let's get to some questions. We're waiting for the phone to hopefully ring. This is from Come Get It Marlins. Favorite pick, and give some insight on where the moves with Turris and Bonino could lead the team. It's, Glynne, do you have a favorite pick?
That's hard just because it's so everything is so far away right now, right?
It is.
And there's so much still to be learned. So it's really hard to say like, oh, this is my favorite. I'm super excited because, I mean, there's a lot of potential for everyone involved, but you just don't know at this point, right?
Right. Well, here's my favorite. One of my favorites is Gunnar Wolf-Fontaine in the seventh round. Because of his name.
No.
But also because the scouting report said he's a Brad Marchand type of player, and so I asked him about it, and I said, so you've been compared to a Brad Marchand type of player that you can be a pest on the ice but still produce, and that's what's important, and what we know the Predators have needed is that they need a pest that can produce. They haven't had that. You've had a guy that could fight or mix it up, but they haven't had someone that could also produce. And I asked him, he said, yeah. my mom said to don't make it easy to play against you and always be a rat.
Be a rat on the ice. I love that came from his mom.
From his mom. And also did ask about the history of his name. And Gunnar Wolf, it's not a family name or anything, said that originally they were going to name him Wolf. And then it morphed into Gunnar Wolf somehow.
Because clearly, naturally, that's the natural progression of Wolf. Gunnar Wolf. That's
Gunnar
the best.
Wolf.
I'm not even making fun. I think he should stay in Nashville forever. And
he's going to play college hockey at Northeastern, David Poile's alma mater. So I'm
Gunnar
sure they've
Wolf-Fontaine.
had to play into it a little bit too. But I'm sure more people are going to want to get his first name on the back of the jersey instead of his last name.
I want the whole name. It's only, I mean,
Gunnar Wolf-Fontaine.
Yeah. And I think that Paul should have to announce his entire name.
Oh, my gosh.
Gunnar Wolf-Fontaine.
I will say, the Askarov pick, the more and more I think about it, the more I do like it.
Yeah.
As well. I do like that because how often does a franchise-type goaltender come along? And it's happened before. It could be a bust. Anybody can be a bust. That's the draft.
Yeah.
And the NHL draft is difficult because it's hard to gauge where a 17 or 18-year-old can be in 4 or 5 years. You just don't know. It's hard. That's why you don't many make it.
Yeah, but you can get excited about a top goaltender prospect in the first round.
You absolutely can. So we'll see. And then taking some of these overagers, asking Tom Nolan and David Poile about that too, is that maybe they're able to see a lot more film in these guys, and they're 2 years older than most guys that are getting drafted, and so they have a better idea of their potential and where they're heading down and their decision making, that they're more mature, and they don't feel like it's as much of a risk to be taking them at 20 years old. So we'll see on that one. This one is from Gump and Chase, non-hockey. It is best and worst Halloween candy.
Oh, wow. I didn't see that one
So
till now.
it's Reese's, peanut butter, pumpkins.
Oh, no.
Oh, yes.
No. I'm just not big on peanut butter and chocolate combo.
You are dead to me.
No.
You were
I'm alive and well sitting across from you.
You're
what's
a
your
zombie.
favorite then?
That's my favorite.
I mean, what's your least favorite?
My
That's
least
what I meant to
favorite.
say.
My least favorite would be any of those little individually wrapped. Oh yeah, the orange and black individually wrapped like peanut butter taffy thingy majiggers.
You are sick.
Are those your favorite?
No, they're not. I was kidding. I was trying to act like you got them both wrong, even though there's no wrong.
A lot of those individually wrapped ones I don't tend to prefer.
Yeah, I don't like those.
What is your favorite then?
I still love a good solid box of Nerds. And I I still love peanut M&Ms.
Okay.
So if I have to pick a favorite, it's going to be peanut M&Ms.
Oh, you
if
went
I
for
only have to pick
classic.
one, it is very classic.
It's a good classic.
And then my least is everything else. No, I hate Tootsie Rolls.
Oh.
I will never ever understand. I don't know. I don't know why they're still around. I don't know how people can like them. They make me gag. I can't even look at them without getting a lump in my throat. Like,
That's
it's that
pretty
bad.
intense.
I can't smell them.
That's pretty intense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we went ahead and got some of those peanut butter pumpkins from Reese's because they were on sale, and
Yeah.
I've already finished 2 packages of them.
And I'm not saying they're bad. I'm just not big on peanut butter chocolate.
That's my thing. The shape,
But I like peanut and chocolate.
shaped Reese's peanut butter cups are the best.
They taste different when
They
they're
taste different. They're
shaped
better.
like a tree.
There's
or
more
a pumpkin.
peanut butter. There's more peanut butter in them. I don't know why they do this year round and have a shape like because you have a dead space after what is it, Valentine's Day? I
mean, they could do
Or
like
Easter,
summer
after Easter.
animals. They could do like a shark
Or a star for the 4th of July.
that. Yeah,
A star would be great.
that would be really
I mean,
smart.
you have Easter egg. You have believe they do a heart. You have the Christmas tree, and then you have the pumpkin. There needs to be
there is
something
a
to take
big
over
gap.
summer. There's a huge
They need
gap.
to do some summer ones.
Make some money, Reese's.
Hey, you
Make a
just gave
star.
them an idea. You should get money if they start doing this.
Yeah,
This was your idea.
should. Absolutely should. This is from multiple people, and it is Taylor Hall. Am I right? That was Jack Woods actually
yeah.
wording that. Taylor Hall. This is very curious because the Nashville Predators, looking at potential projected cap space now, is going to be well over $8 million. But there's still some flexibility they're going to have, and it's going to be curious to see where they go with this because they're going to have to re-sign Luke Kunin, and we still don't know necessarily about Colin Blackwell, but it's looking like it's not going to happen. And then you have Yannick Weber, Corbinian Holtza, and Mikael Glenlund, Craig Smith, all gone as it seems. I still wonder, Craig Smith, because they want to test the market, if they're going to test it and see, no, we're still happy with Nashville. Who knows? Who knows with that? But there's the potential that they're going to be in play, and it's been reported by multiple of the national writers that Taylor Hall could be a fit for the Predators. They're going to make a push for him, but they can't just throw everything at him. They have to live within their means in terms of what their cap space is. But remember, his MVP year was under John Hines in New Jersey. There's
So
a
you've
good
got
relationship.
the connection there. Yeah.
Got the connection there. And then Matt Duchene and Taylor Hall with potential of maybe Ellie Tolvanen as your second line or 1A
Yeah.
line
very much
as a
so.
line, just as a line.
Yeah.
There's a great potential there too because can you imagine a defender trying to pick who you're going to defend on that? You have Taylor Hall coming up, and it's most likely he would probably get double teamed, which would open up Ellie Tolvanen, and vice versa, and that kind of thing. Because people know that Tolvanen, he obviously needs some space to be able to get his shot off, but you give him space, he's going to be able to get that off, and it's an NHL quality shot. But if they're double teaming him, then it leaves Taylor Hall open, and Matt Duchene just dispersing the puck however it needs to. I would like to see it as long as they're not throwing everything at it. I'd be okay with it because then it shows that it definitely has been a retool and that they just want to change a few things out, which they've done, obviously, down the middle. They changed things. I mean, Turris and Bonino being gone absolutely changes the way this roster looks.
It does.
Period.
It does.
And then Craig Smith being gone absolutely changes the way this roster looks. Changes the third pairing completely. Absolutely changes the way this roster looks. It has changed. It is different.
Yeah.
So it is a retool, but it's not a rebuild. And the reason why it's not a rebuild is because you don't have your core gone. If it was a rebuild, you'd be seeing Ryan Ellis gone. You'd be seeing Matthias Ekholm gone. You'd be seeing one of Ryan Johansson, Arvidsson, or Forsberg gone. Period. Now, anything could still happen.
Yeah.
But I don't think so now that'll be another center. I don't think Johansson's going to be gone either. They need to keep something right there. But there could still be more movement. But that's not a rebuild. It's a retool. And I say that because you're doing it on the fly. You're rebuilding whatever you have on the fly, which is a retool. I know that's semantics, but that's what I see.
Yeah. Well, and oftentimes when people have been talking about Taylor Hall, you're talking about long-term contracts, what that future would look like, what the amount would look like. But
Right.
this could be a scenario where if it was something that he wanted maybe for a shorter term,
Sure.
you don't know. There's so many different possibilities of how it could shake out.
He knows
but
Ryan Ellis, too.
He knows Ryan Ellis, working with John Hines, being very familiar with that.
Sure.
It's also been said that he is a huge fan of just the city of Nashville itself. So there could be some incentive for him to come, and maybe it wouldn't cost. I don't know. You never know.
Maybe.
But I mean, what's not to love about Nashville? You actually hear a lot of players say they're like,
Oh, yeah.
aside from the threatening, deafening screams of fans at Bridgestone that
They love it.
throws them off their game, it's great. They
love
love
it.
to come visit here.
So we'll see. And hey, we don't have to wait that long. Free agency starts in 2
We
days.
don't,
But
yeah.
I'm sure there's going to be plenty of offers and things have to happen via Zoom. So you're probably not going to see as much break right off the bat. It's going to take a little while as teams and players talk to each other. So next up, we'll wrap up our season finale penalty box here to answering more of your questions. There's plenty more things talking about free agency, the draft, and things of that sort here. Penalty box here to ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Baby shark do 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 do, baby shark do 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 do
Why, Max? Why?
Give us a second real quick while we kick Max out of the studio. Because I'm not going to be able to sleep tonight.
Welcome back to Penalty Box Radio, ESPN 1025 The Game. Justin Bradford, Glynne Blackwell, producer Max, the season finale, the last segment of Penalty Box Radio for this weird season that is ending in October. And Max was dedicating that song to Glynne for peanut butter cup shaped like sharks.
Like a shark, not stars.
Shark, yeah.
Oh, I thought you said stars. Wow.
Glynne said it should be named after a summer animal. Like a shark? That's definitely the first animal I think of when I think of summer.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, yeah.
Sharks everywhere.
I think of like no-see-ums and chiggers.
Oh, yeah, mosquitoes.
And everything that bites in the South.
You don't want a mosquito Reese's. That's
No.
gross. You want a thick boy.
A thick boy.
A thick boy shark.
Glynne wants a thick boy shark.
You fit more peanut butter. That's what you said you wanted.
Oh, my goodness.
I'm just trying to help. Get me out of here.
Oh,
you said you wanted chiggers.
It's going to sound like we're doing our show from a Denny's like we were accused of so many years ago.
Oh, yes. All those years ago.
Sounds like a bunch of college students that laughed at their own inside jokes from a Denny's. Accurate. So next question comes from Sam Fleming. I know everyone has their mind on Taylor Hall, myself included, but thoughts on bringing Tyler Toffoli to Nashville? So I like the idea of Tyler Toffoli. He'd be cheaper, I believe. His cap hit previously was $4.6 million. He was traded to the Vancouver Canucks from the Los Angeles Kings. He had 10 points in 10 games for the Canucks in the regular season and 4 points in 7 games in the playoffs for the Canucks. And for the Kings, in 58 games, he had 34 points. I think he'd be a good middle six player. Bring him in. It's kind of like a Craig Smith replacement more than anything else, but it just depends on term and cap hit. So I know Taylor Hall's probably the number one, but Tyler Toffoli I think would be a good fit for Nashville in terms of what he could potentially do on the second line there and putting him in a place where maybe he could succeed and also help his teammates succeed, because he's had potential years where, I mean, he had a 58-point season in 15-16. He had an 18-19, a 34-point season, so not the best. So he kind of is inconsistent. Well, color me shocked for something with the Preds forward, right? But I think he could potentially be a fit for the Predators at the right price. Glynne?
Yeah, I mean, you kind of covered it. It is funny because as you were joking about when you said, oh, yeah, Preds forward, I was literally thinking, you were like, yeah, comparable to like a Craig Smith, maybe Phil. And the inconsistency, but yeah, you covered it.
Okay, good. So this is multiple people have asked this question too about Askarov and when he could be coming stateside. Particularly Kyle Perkins asking this one. When do you see Askarov coming stateside, and what does it mean for Saros and Ingram? So the thing with Askarov is he's still under contract in the KHL for another season after this one, and so he's at least 2 years away from coming over, which bodes well for Saros and Ingram because we just don't know how they're going to turn out yet. It takes a long time sometimes for goaltenders. Not everyone's a Carter Hart. And not everyone's a Pecorine. Look how long it took for Pecorine to bloom. It took a long time. Yeah. He was a late bloomer in terms of his career.
You need more time.
Absolutely. So coming stateside, I believe they're going to want to get him in for a development camp of some sort to see what he's like. But you already know they're going to have your European scouts over in Russia watching his games all the time to see his progress over there and speaking with him as best as they can. It was an interesting post-pick thing because he had to have a translator in there. And so I asked him just about being compared to Tretiak and everything, and he's like, I just want to be the best NHL goaltender ever. Like,
that's
okay, kid, set your sights high.
About. That's the confidence I was talking about. I love that.
He's setting his sights high on that ever.
He's not like, yeah, I want to try to do my best. I want to be the best ever.
I want to be the best ever. He wants to be the GOAT.
I like that.
He wants to be the GOAT. I would think 2 years is when you're probably looking at potential there too, and unless he's completely playing lights out, the most likely they'd want him playing some time in the AHL and getting used to the North American game and just in terms of what the players in North America have to offer. And if he continues to progress the way we see it, he wouldn't be playing in the minors long. So I say 2 years. We'll see what comes of it from there because he's a kid, but he is playing in a man's game right now in the KHL. And so I know everyone's going to be tracking his stats very, very closely to see what he's doing, especially because they're trackable stats. He's playing in a league we can track. And we don't get that all the time in terms of draft picks because there were picks been before we're like, do they even exist? It's been 3 years since they were picked. We haven't even seen them here.
Yeah.
I think it was Hardy Hockman Attell. We just didn't know. Like, we met him for the first time last year.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you really do exist.
Oh my God. Max and I just made the same face. Yeah,
I'm sorry.
I was thinking somewhere 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
So
I think that's totally
makes
okay.
sense.
So this is one from Justin Otcher. I believe I got that correctly. Or Olcher, sorry. Bets on Tolvanen being the biggest surprise this season and lights the lamp. I wouldn't say he would be a surprise. I hope the expectations are that he can come in and perform to expectations. So if that's a surprise to people, that's great. But I think the expectations are that he can come in and he should be able to come in and be like a 40-point player.
Yeah, if you wouldn't have said and lights the lamp, Justin, I would have said the biggest surprise, like people were expecting him to do great and did terrible. I'm like, no. I'm like, I think we all expect him to do pretty well. So I hope that he proves us right in that expectation that we have. So
absolutely,
that's what we're hopeful for.
Right. This one comes from Dennis. Will the Preds be allowed to have a development camp? Well, a lot of these guys are already playing. So if you have a development camp, they're not going to be able to come because they're either at college or they're already playing juniors or they're over in Europe. So I don't believe they're having a development camp this year in the way that we've seen it before. It's going to be more one-on-one. Like we said, the KHL's already playing. College hockey will be starting up sometime later in the fall, earlier this winter. Junior hockey is eyeing their starts to be sometime in December. I mean, that's the OHL. The Q has been having major problems in the Q with having multiple players on teams test positive. So we don't know. They're targeting the start date for the NHL season at January 1st as the target area. Whether that's the actual date or not, we don't know. But that zone, so not December anymore, but January, meaning training camps probably sometime in December. In 2 weeks, in a week and a half, small group training can go ahead and start at team facilities. That was already released, so that can happen here in the near future. But we don't know. We don't know anything right now
about 2020, honestly.
So did you have, Glynne, this is also a Dennis question, a favorite move done by the Preds today?
I love that we are just turning into a whole bunch of Lukes. I love it. No. I think I just like to see, not anything specific, like I said earlier, because there's just so much still out there, but I just like to see progress. I like to see forward progress. I like to see youth. And I think that's what David Poile has been focusing on. And that's when you're at the draft, you have the opportunity to get that youth that he's been talking about. And it's just exciting overall just to be able to see that potential down the line, because we're so used to seeing the day-to-day, the players, you got this, but when you actually get to look at the cupboard in depth, that's exciting. So there's still a lot to learn. There's still a lot that I need to learn about people. Like you said, Justin, while we were driving over here, people are getting added to the team, and you're like, what? I got to keep up. But I get excited this time every year because it's new.
Right.
And it's youthful, and something about youthful rejuvenation that I've talked about on the show before, something about that, it brings something to a team. Whether they're here, 2 or 3 years down the line or 4 or 5 years down the line, it's still exciting.
Absolutely. That's why the draft's my favorite event when it comes to hockey. And we say this every year before we have to close it out. Pick one of the prospects in this draft, folks. Pick one and follow their career. See where they go. Because if you start following them right now, or maybe you're following them beforehand, but if you start following them right now, imagine the feeling you're going to have when they make their debut for the Preds, if they ever do. But when they do, it's going to mean even more because you've been following that kid since their career started as part of the Preds organization. Yeah. And it's a really cool feeling to see that. Well, it doesn't mean you have to buy their jerseys or anything like that. It just means you start following them and you pick that one to be your guy. That's the one you're going to follow along to see their highlights, watch their games, and read their interviews and see what's going on in their post-game reports and just follow their career because it makes it mean so much more and it makes it a lot of fun to do that.
And so when they retire, you can say you followed their entire career.
Absolutely. Well, folks, we need to wrap it up. We are not done, though, overall. You can always catch us at penaltyboxradio.com following high school hockey, college hockey when that gets started, junior hockey, and more. We'll have plenty of that going on during the offseason. We hope to be back in December if that's when the NHL gets going. But thank you so much for tuning in this season, the second half of this season. We definitely appreciate it and appreciate all of your support, so thanks for tuning in. For producer Max and Glynne Blackwell, this is Justin Bradford of Penalty Box Radio. Thanks for listening to us on ESPN 102.5 The Game.